from the Culinary Arts program at Whittier Regional Technical High School, and then later received her degree in culinary arts from Johnson and Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island. She worked in hotels and country clubs to gain experience before opening the Wooden Spoon Catering Company in 2013. She will be teaching us how to cook a special Hungarian dish and pastry today, which she will tell you more about. So please welcome Kristina and happy cooking, everyone. And thank you so much, Kristina.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a nice introduction. Thank you so much. This is my mother, Maria Pelkey. So she's going to be cooking with me. She's been cooking with me. I've been cooking with her, I guess, ever since I was young. So I tell everybody that I get my love of cooking from my family, and I learned most everything from my family, mostly my mom. But my both sides of the family had restaurants. So my dad and my uncle worked at Cafe Budapest for a while. And then my dad worked at Walkovers, which was a popular restaurant way back in the day. And then my mom's side of the family owned the Red Pepper, which did European specialties and did a buffet every weekend in Amesbury, Massachusetts. So it was really neat to start my business in Amesbury, where my family had a restaurant when I was very young. And my mom ran the front of the house there, so that was pretty awesome. Today we're going to make fashir. So we were trying to think of things that were quick and easy that people may use again. So we sent the recipes in advance. We prepped everything out, so it should get done really quickly. If you have any questions, you can definitely ask while we are cooking. And so we chose the dough, the no yeast dough for the pastry because it's super easy to work with. And it's fluffy, and you don't have to deal with the yeast. Because I don't know, I feel like that's what prevents people from baking is the proofing, and then if it doesn't come out right. So it's a basically fail-proof dough that you can do the kifli cookies with. We're going to do two variations. We'll do the open where you can see the fruit preserve. So you take the square with papuch. Yeah. And so, and then we're also going to do the kifli ones, the croissant, the roll-up type. So we'll do two types of filling. So those are special to me. My grandmother typically made them for every party. So she just gave me the real recipe at 86 years old. Because before she would always tell us sort of how she made it, but she wouldn't really tell us because she wanted to be the one to make the best, which is okay. She still is. But she just a couple weeks ago sat down and said, this is exactly how I do it. And so we practiced and it came out awesome. So anyway, I will prepare the fashir. I have gloves on just because it's a messy job. I have everything prepped here. I'll say what I'm doing as I go. And then my mom will fry them up while I switch gears and get the stuff ready for the pastry. Okay, so first here we have the ground pork. So see how it's nice and red? Sometimes you get it in the grocery store, you see ground pork and it looks basically white and it's all fat. So if you go to the grocery store, you can even Market Basket or I don't know, just a regular local grocery store, you can get a nice boneless pork butt and ask them to grind it for you. And you can get a nice red, it almost looks like ground beef, it's so red, pork. And so that's delicious. Yeah, it's lean. It's not just the fat that will cook out. So that's a little tip with the ground pork. And then here I have day-old bread soaking in milk. So we will squeeze that out and put that in at the end. So for right here, I sent you a 4-pound recipe, but right now it's a 1/4 of the recipe. So it's just 1 pound. So then 1 egg. And then it all just gets thrown in like a meatloaf. And then, so I have a 1/4 of an onion chopped. So onion, you can put in the onion or not. I love the flavor of the onion and the garlic. So like my stepdad says, oh, I really don't like onion too much, but my mom puts onion in everything. He just doesn't know. So if you want, so I just did just like a small dice. If you want to not really see it, but have the flavor, you can always put it in the food processor and they won't even know, right?
Kristina, do you saute the onion before or it just the raw onion?
I just do the raw onion. Yep, I just do the raw onion. And then the garlic, I do a cup. Garlic, again, is how much garlic do you like? Do you not really like garlic? Do you like a lot of garlic? So I like a decent amount. So I have this is actually a Pampered Chef garlic press that I love. You don't even have to peel the garlic bulb. You just pick it off of the bulb, and then you can squeeze it right in. And then you take the skin out after. So that makes fresh, because I feel like you can get the garlic in the jar, but it's not the same thing as having the fresh garlic. So this tool makes it super easy. I love it. Yeah. It's a daily thing I use in this house. All right. All right, so there, a couple of those heads were really small, so I did 3. But you can do however much garlic you like. Parsley inside is optional. I like it for a little bit of color, and I love parsley in my soups and in just everything. So I will put some in, and then I'll save some for garnish at the end. So that's just chopped parsley. And then here is just salt, pepper, and paprika. So I like the kalochai paprika. I haven't really been able to find it, so we haven't had any friends visiting lately. That's normally where we get it. You know, when people come visit, friends or family, they always bring paprika for us, but I haven't really been able to find it. I can find the sageti kind in the store, but never this kind. So if anyone knows a secret stash, let me know.
This one is actually from Wegmans. It's culture style. It's not really, not the real thing, but it's culture style. It will do until we get the real one.
Yes. So how do you say the brick powder? If it's not the certain kind, my grandmother goes, oh, it's brick powder.
Tegelpoort.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is just a day-old roll, which I'm going to squeeze out. If you don't, so you can use this, or you can put a little bit of breadcrumb to bind it if you don't have the, but this is the traditional way. You take the day-old bread, soak it in a little bit of milk to reconstitute it, and then you add it in. All right, so those are all the ingredients, and you just mix it together like a meatloaf. The egg will also combine it. And then the next step will be to make little patties and put them into the unseasoned breadcrumb. So just be careful if you get them at the store. You can make them or just get the unseasoned. And you can put a little salt and garlic powder in them if you'd like. So always mix this by hand. I don't know if you've ever tried to do a meatloaf or fushy and you try to do it in a mixer, but it comes out very gummy and pasty. So even when we do really big batches, when catering, we always have to do this part by hand. And then next up, always, especially if you're making, like I have 1 pound here, but if I was making for a big crowd, you would want to make sure that this is how you want it. So just like if you taste the inside of a sausage filling before you go filling all the sausages, you want to taste a little bit of this. So what I will do is just take a little, we have the oil heating here. That's what we did right before we started the call. While we were watching those beautiful cookies. Oh, they're so beautiful. I had a big giant heart one that Monica made that I bought at one of the events, and I had it for display, and it fell off and it broke into a million pieces, but it was the big heart one that had the Hungarian saying. Yeah. So beautiful. So I'll have to get another one. All right, so I'm just making a little tiny test patty, and I am putting it in the dough, the unseasoned breadcrumb. And then I'll test and see if this is ready. You see oil ready? That's what I'm going to test too. Okay. So you want to, I'll see if it's hot enough. Yeah, it should be good. Turn it up a little bit. So you want to test one little piece and try it before you go making all these patties and making the rest. That way you can put a little more seasoning if you'd like. If it's too salty, you can add a little, more meat, and you can switch it up from there. So I will move this out of the way to dirty dish land. Oh, okay. So frying is good at 325 to 350. You might want to put, if you're making big, so people make, we make the size of a hamburger, or I would say like a hockey puck size for the fush ears. But you can do little appetizer balls and skewer it. We've done these, we have this for a garnish for them, but we've done it where we've had the longer skewers and had the fush ear in little balls for appetizers right on there. But if you're making the bigger ones, you want the temperature to be a little bit lower because you don't want them to turn too brown on the outside before the middle's cooked. So you want the inside of the, I'm just gonna turn that down a little bit. You want the inside to measure with a meat thermometer, 165 always for ground meat. You can cook pork 155, but you want to make sure if it's ground meat, the temperature goes up a little bit more. 165 is the safe for any kind of ground meat. All right, so you can hear the liquid kind of coming out of that. And then I have just a plate with a paper towel on it to soak up some of the grease before I serve it. And you just want to be careful with your paper towel near your flame. Sounds obvious, but I do teach culinary arts for high school, and you never know what you're gonna see. So I like to mention that kind of stuff. All right, so that's cooking right along. You got a little baby fush ear. But this would be a good size. We've done not patties, but balls. But this would be a good size just to kind of skewer on here for an appetizer. I have a funny story about fush ear. My mom always cooks for an army, always. And the neighborhood kids would always come to our house because there was always good food. And we had, one time my mom had this plate. I'm telling you, it was like this giant platter up to here with fush ear, all done, ready to go, sitting out. So we came home from school and our friends came over to play and we ate so many of them. But she always fed everybody, so we thought it wasn't a big deal. And then, and then she came downstairs. And it was for a party, but we didn't know. And so she freaked out and all the neighborhood kids went running and they were afraid to come to my house for like a week. So she had the, it was really funny. Okay, so I will try a little bit of that. Cheers.
Thank you.
Good. All right, now you change your gloves.
Yum.
All right.
So the plain mushrooms, you work with Charlotte, we're good.
Yeah, or chalamade, something. Yes, please.
Kristina, people are asking about the recipe. You said that you sent it. Where did you send it to? I'm not sure if you or no.
Tamás, I already sent it out to the list.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Sorry, I just missed that.
So, yeah, if somebody still needs it, they can contact me or Asha, and then we can get it to them.
I do it on the same day, except I bake the onion a little bit before I put it in, just like Agnes says.
You're supposed to grate the onion.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you do similar, but you saute the onion a little, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saute it a little bit before I put it in.
Yeah.
So it would be, not that raw taste when you bite it in.
Yeah.
But it's good both ways anyway. Thank you.
We use a sweet onion, but I'll even eat onions raw. Like I have this red onion on here and I love it.
Yeah.
Me and my husband does too, because I always smell like garlic and onions. From cooking every day. Well, he does too, it's okay. Okay, so next I will, Mama is making the, you can do it right here. Yeah, you can do it right here if you want.
Well, I don't want to be in your way. Okay.
So she's being nice on camera, but normally she's always telling me what to do. That's okay. I still love you. Okay. So I'm going to get my mixer ready for the dough, the pastry dough. So I use this for the croissant type pastry and the would you say papuch?
Uh-huh.
Papuch, isn't that what the flip-flops you wear when you go to the house?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can watch while Mama Maria is cooking the pashirt, and then
I'm not gonna put too much in there because.
yeah, so we're just gonna make a couple to show you how to do it. Oh, and she wanted to mention too, sometimes she'll make, which we've had before, which is amazing, the same mixed meat mixture, but she puts like a whole kolbas in the middle and makes sort of a meatloaf, and when you slice it, you can see the round pieces of kolbas. It's delicious. And when you cook it, the juices from the kolbas go into the meat. It's delicious. Or she does hard-boiled eggs too. And those are really pretty to kind of slice and put on a platter for a party. So for the dough, I'm going to use the paddle attachment and the dough hook. So I'll use the paddle attachment first to cream the butter, cream cheese, and sugar, and then I'll switch to the dough hook for when I add the flour, because the dough hook will start picking up, once the dough hook starts picking up the whole ball of dough, that's when I know I've added enough flour. Because you can do the same recipe 10 times and you might need a little less or a little more flour depending on the humidity that day, you know. So the recipe says 2 1/4 cup flour, but you could even go up to 2 1/2, and you'll need flour to roll it out. So, so I'm going to cream the cream cheese, butter, and sugar. Some people make this dough with no sugar. I'll tell you how we do the filling when we fill it. But I don't add much sugar to the filling, but I do add a little bit into the dough. So here we have, oh, let me move the mixer back so you can see.
Yeah, Kristina, move back a little bit. We don't see you.
Yep. I'm
For
actually,
the ingredients.
sure. I am going to move this whole thing back. All right.
That's why I was gonna do it.
There we go. How's that? All right.
Kristina, you said that you cook or teach cooking for high school students.
Yes.
Do you ever teach our Hungarian recipes specifically, or is it just general?
Yeah, so right now I'm actually in the hospitality program. I teach out the front of the house for hospitality. But I have last year, I taught chicken paprikash and I did the apple strudel. We did homemade nokedli.
Nice.
So yeah, I definitely put the Hungarian, we've made stuffed cabbage, and we've done it with like, we've done it with the sauerkraut, without the sauerkraut, you know, the different ways. So I definitely bring the Hungarian food in there. And it's great because we sell it at the school restaurant. So some of the teachers are like, oh, I know who made that, you know, or they ask for it again.
That's fun.
Yeah, so.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so this was 2 sticks of unsalted butter. I did unsalted because we are adding salt to the dough. And again, it's as salty as you want to make it. Let me get the rest of the ingredients here. So I have the cream cheese, which I've left out to be softened. So it's just 1 8-ounce package of cream cheese to the 2 sticks of butter.
What kind of cream cheese?
I just use the Philadelphia,
Philadelphia, okay.
regular cream cheese, not the light, because it has
There are just so many of them that it's confusing.
Yeah, so I just do the Philadelphia, the block cream cheese, and then I let it soften. Sometimes if you use the one in the tub, it's a little too soft. So the dough, you may need a little more flour, might not come out the same. So I have the sugar here. So 1/4 cup of sugar. I'm gonna lock this and I'm going to let it go. So the cream cheese is very white. The butter, you know, obviously is yellow. So when you're creaming, the creaming method, which you start a lot of cookies or pastries with the creaming method, You want to make sure that it's all fully incorporated and it's one color. And then once you see that one color, you let it go for a couple more minutes until it's more pale, because obviously the more air that gets put into it, you'll see the color get more and more pale. You want it to be a very, very like pale yellow, almost off-white. And then that's when we know that it's ready to go. So this is all locked. And I'll let that go. And then you want to make sure to scrape around the edge too. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to get a scraper.
It's not in there.
It might be in here. That's all right. Oh, right here. My kitchen's clean. I don't know where anything is. All right.
I turned that up a little bit because.
The heat? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to give it a little pause to show. So see, okay, so this is the color. It's all blended. It's all one color. But now we're going to let it go a couple of minutes to get some air whipped into the butter, cream cheese, and sugar mixture. So it'll become a little bit more pale. So in the meantime, while that's mixing, we'll put it on here after.
Just gonna put a little crunch on it.
Yep. So here's my flour already measured out. So I will add my salt. So you always want to add your dry ingredients. So if this recipe had baking powder, baking soda, which it doesn't, you want to make sure that you fully incorporate all of that first to disperse all the dry ingredients evenly. So again, I'm going to do one more scrape. So now you see it getting more pale. I don't know if you can tell the color difference, but this is more of an off-white than it was yellow before.
Kristina,
Yes.
could you just very quickly, could you, if you don't have a mixer, what do you suggest to do?
So you can use a hand mixer. You know, the one that.
I just seen it.
You know the hand mixer that these are the
Yeah.
attachments? So you
Okay,
you could do that in a bowl. I mean, by hand would be really hard to do, but I guess it would be doable. But I would recommend doing a stand mixer or this. I don't know about the creaming though. I make pie doughs and things in the food processor, but I don't think it would cream butter and sugar.
Probably not his.
You would need some sort of liquid or have it be very dry to make like a crumb.
okay, thanks.
Okay. So now I'll do another scrape. So now it's a nice, really nice, pretty white color. And this is just my extra flour for rolling out, so I'll keep that separate. So when you add the flour, you add in batches. This isn't a huge batch, so I'll probably add half and then the other half. But you know, if you were making a really big batch of, let's say cookies doing the creaming method, you would do the butter and sugar, and then you would add wet ingredients, if any. If they were egg, you would add those little by little, and then you add the sifted dry ingredients little by little. So that would be the process. But that's why I love this dough. There's no egg. You don't have to deal with yeast. It's just the cream cheese, butter, sugar, and flour. Super simple. All right, so at this point, I'm going to put the dough hook on. So I will take the product off of the paddle. And then I'll show you how, once you have the right amount of flour, the dough hook will start to pick up the whole batch of dough from the sides of the bowl. And that's when you know that you have a dough. I'll add most of it and we'll see. Like I said, you can measure it out, but sometimes you need a little less flour, a little more flour. If it's crumbly, if it's very crumbly, then you know that you don't have enough liquid.
Also, I copy and pasted the recipe into the chat. So if anyone wants to see it now, it's also in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Kristina, that's funny. My mother taught me, or everybody's grandmother, that, oh, it's ready when it takes off the dough from the bowl or off your hand. So they don't give you recipe that you take as much as it takes and stuff. It
Right.
In the past, probably participants had this experience that, oh, you just put as much as you see it needed, or it fills the bowl, things like that.
Well, I was telling my mom, some people that, are very math-minded or science-minded, they want an exact recipe. And maybe I didn't learn that way, or I could give the exact recipe, but I always kind of, put my own little spin on it at the end if it didn't look quite right to me. So yeah, so sometimes I feel like I don't have the right answer either, because it's just like, oh, you'll see when it looks right. Yeah.
Then you tell us.
And the reason that you see when it looks right is because you've seen it wrong so many times, at least for me. I make things and I'm like, it's a little too brittle. It's a little too this, so then the next time I see it and I'm like, oh, it needs a little more flour. So it's funny. But I remember even learning with my mom, well, how do you make this? And then she's like, well, we're just going to have to make it together. I can't just tell you. So I learned a lot of it that way. So I'm going to scrape the bowl again, and I have some butter and cream cheese here. So, and on the side of the bowl. So I already have this, will have to get broken up into pieces, and oh, here it comes. Now it's starting to do its thing. So I'll put it on low. And this sort of needs it. And then the gluten and the flour reacts. And that's what makes the dough workable and stretchy when you roll it out. It's from the gluten and the flour. And what makes it not, fall apart. So it's starting to do its thing, but I think it needs a tad bit more flour. So there's a little bit left in here. But I already prepared some dough and put it in the refrigerator. And I have it out right now, so that we can start making the cookies without having to, obviously wait for the dough. Mm-hmm. All right. Throwing stuff at you. Yeah.
Here, Mom, taste it.
Yeah. How's this look, Mom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I cleaned this up a little bit because it was a little too slow for me.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, the meat really wasn't at room temp. It came kind of out of the refrigerator cold. So. All right, there we go. Now the dough's starting to pull and become into a ball. So now I know that this is looking good. So this dough does have to be refrigerated because the butter and the cream cheese is softened. And before we roll it out, we want to get that back to the refrigerator temperature. So I have a piece of dough up there that I will grab, but let me just show you what this should look like coming out of the mixer.
Come on, guys.
No, I'll move it. I need to grab some things off of it first. So here's the consistency. So I would break this up into 3 or 4 balls and then pat them kind of flat into a patty like this and wrap them in saran wrap. Some people do balls, but when you roll out the ball, like sometimes they crack. So I like to do it in a patty that way, nice and flat. That way, when I roll it out, you don't get as many cracks in it. So the dough, when it comes out of the mixer, should be like this. It's like a very, very, very thick cookie dough, basically. Okay, so I have this dough. Let me move this out of the way and I'll work down here so you can see me. Thank you. Got it, Debbie? Okay. So you want to flour your surface. So I'll put some flour down. Obviously, it's a sanitized surface that we sanitized right before we started cooking. So yeah, I say that I did obviously learn a lot in culinary school. But I learned a lot of the cooking, especially Hungarian cooking, from my family. But the cooking school taught me so much about, you know, sanitation and menu and cost control, menu planning, that kind of stuff. What goes with what, allergies. So I feel like it was, you know, great that I was able to go to cooking school. I joke around because my family, when I said I was going to cooking school, they were just like, no, please do something else. You can make so much more money and work way less, you know. And they just, you know, I saw so many people in my family work so hard. And then they said, you know, my grandmother would always say, yeah, we made money on Friday and Saturday, and then we lost it the whole rest of the week, you know. They're closed Sunday, Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know, you're not really busy and you're losing money. So they didn't want to see me go through that. So there we go. So we're going to flour the surface. And so because this is a nice patty, it's easy to roll out. So you want to roll this into a rectangle because, or a square, because the pieces that we want to cut are square. Can you grab me the filling, the 2 fillings, please? And the egg wash and the water to dip my fingers in. Thank you. So you want to roll it depending on what you're making and how much pastry you like, between a 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch. So you do see sometimes when you fold together, I'll show you when I make it, but when you make the papuch ones, sometimes when you bake them, they open back up again. So that's because the dough might be too thick. When I find that when I make them thinner, roll the dough a little bit thinner for those. When I seal them, they stay. So I'll just take my cutter. So this is has a jagged edge and it's kind of just has a design when you cut. Sometimes I like to do those, but you can just use a paring knife if you want to cut the dough. So, and I'll hold the cookie up close to show you what I come out with. So big rectangle for the croissant shaped ones. So what you want to do is do a big triangle. You want to do a big triangle with a kind of a wide base. A long triangle with a wide base. You do a few of those. So you want them to be pointy and you want them to have a wide base because that will be the part of the croissant that wraps around. So I have my favorite to put in the croissant ones is just Nutella. And then sometimes we do walnut. Sometimes we do like a walnut and rum and raisin mixture, like inside the bagel. Same thing, you could do poppy seed with a little orange zest, rum. Sometimes you cook it with a little egg white and cool it, and that will keep it sort of like a paste. I always put my poppy seeds in a coffee grinder if I ever do a poppy seed filling. Oops, that's getting loud. Yeah. Those are good, Mama. We can.
Yeah, this is good, but the other two are not.
I'm from Debrecen, Kristina. We used to do the plum lekvar.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the deep blackish plum lekvar. Oh.
Oh yum. I have some sour cherry in my cabinet too. Sometimes I do the cherry.
Because it's not that sweet. It's a very good combination.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yummy. Did you say you see plum?
Yeah, the plum. That's right.
My mom says she sees plum at Ocean State Job Lot, the plum lekvar. This is not from Hungary though, right?
I think it's from
Germany?
Poland.
Poland? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you put some filling in, depending. So I put just under a teaspoon for this size, and you put it at the widest end of your triangle, and then you take it, and then I fold it over, and then I press it on the edges. So I'll show you. When I roll it over, I press these edges to kind of seal it. So when I roll it the rest of the way and bake it, that it doesn't seep out the side when you bake it. And sometimes they do a little bit, but you cover them with powdered sugar at the end anyway, so it's not a big deal. You just don't want it to be too messy. So then you just continue to roll, roll, roll. And then when you get to the end, when you get to this tip of the triangle, that's like the seam side down. And then you just take these and bend them. And then there you have it. So there's the little, so that's the croissant one. So then we put them on a baking pan. Can I have that baking sheet over behind here? Thank you. So I have a sheet pan, I have parchment paper, and then for extra, typically you wouldn't need a nonstick spray, but if any of the fillings fall out, especially if it's like a jam or jelly, they are really sticky. So I just do a quick, just to double, be extra sure that after all this work, they're not going to stick to the pan. So you fold over, you press, then you continue to roll, end on the very tip, and then you press and squeeze. And then you line them up on the sheet pan and get them ready to be egg washed. So I have some that I've already baked off, so then I can show you how they look once they come out of the oven. Do you want to start egg washing these while I start working on the next? So the next step, you just give them, so you line them up on the pan, and then you give them a little bit of egg wash, which is just a cracked egg and a little bit of water. So it's just a runny egg.
And make one with the apricot too.
Yep. And then I'm going to take this dough, roll it back out, and do the other shape cookie with the apricot. So this apricot, all we did was take dried apricots, and you just soak them in a bowl overnight. The dehydrated dried apricots that you eat as a snack. So you just leave them in a bowl overnight with water, and then they plump back up again. And then I just put that, drain the extra liquid, but they are liquidy, and then you put them in the food processor with as much sugar, if you like sugar. You could do lemon zest in there too. So this is just strictly the apricots soaked in water and a little bit of sugar. And then so I put that in the food processor, and then it makes the filling. Sometimes if you make the open face cookies, yeah, so just the dried apricots. Sometimes if you use a prepared jam that you buy or make, sometimes when you cook, it all runs out. I don't know if anyone's ever tried that, but that's happened to me on a couple of brands. I have some brands that work. And then they also have the cans of filling that you can use. They do poppy seed, it's a Solo brand, but I feel, to me, those are so sweet. They're sickening sweet to me. So, but some people, it works for some pastries, but I don't really love it for this. Yeah, so just a couple of them, and then pop some of those in there. And then the extra parsley for garnish. So I'm just gonna knead this back together. I know we're getting close to time, but I have the prepared product to show you in a minute.
I was just going to interrupt you, Kristina, but you just looked at the time. Thank you.
Yes, I know we're getting close. So I'm going to grab some of this flour from over here. Roll this back out. Oops. No, I'll just lay it near them. Okay. Yeah, like that. Exactly. All right. Woo. Okay. All right, so you need more flour on your, when that starts sticking. Okay. So now this shape, you just cut squares. Or you can do rectangles and they become more of a angled look. I like to do the rectangles. So you try to make them uniform in size. So here I just have a rectangle. And then you take the apricot filling. Sometimes I like to use 2 spoons so I don't have to use my finger on everything. And you just put some in the middle here. And this is nice and stiff, so it won't, when it bakes, it won't leak out on you. And then you just take your finger and dip it in a little bit of water. And you bring the 2 sides over. And then you crisscross the 2 sides. And then you take the water and you seal it. So it starts out like this. You take the 2 sides, crisscross it, and then you seal this little piece with the water. And you line those up on the sheet pan as well. So these are the ones that sometimes open back, that piece opens back up if you don't roll the dough out thin enough. So you want to make sure that you roll it out, these ones to an 1/8 inch, an 1/8 of an inch. So I have some already prepared that I will show you. So you bake them 350 or 375 until they're light brown. Oh, you already brought them over. Thank you. Okay, so these ones I did this morning, they were strawberry. So when they come out of the oven, you want it to have a little bit of golden brown. So this is before we put the powdered sugar on. So you don't want them too brown. You want them just when they start to turn a little bit golden brown. And then these ones are the Keefly ones, so they end up looking like that. And so it's okay. See how this one sort of leaked a little bit? I didn't pinch it enough. Well, you put powdered sugar over it anyway. So so those ones I really roll in powdered sugar, and then these ones I just dust with powdered sugar because they're beautiful as is. Thank you. And then we just serve this is the fashir all done. We just serve it with some fresh peppers. I have pickles in there, red onion, and it goes good with anything pickled like chalamade or The sauerkraut stuffed peppers go really well with that. And of course, mashed potatoes, right?
Yep. Or
Yeah.
head mushroom, please.
Yes. So that is our lesson for the day. Did we, 12:45 on the dot.
Kristina, that's what I said. Okay. Nice. Thank you so much for both of you being here and
Bravo.
teaching us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
It's really good.
We're gonna jump on for the tour later.
Yes,
Yep.
thank you so much.
Thank
And
Watch
yes,
the tour.
Thank
Yes.
you. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
thank you again. Bye-bye. And
Köszönjük.
yes,
Thanks,
bye-bye.
Kristina.
Köszönjük. We are getting ready for the next section, which will happen soon right now. So I hope our next guest, oh yes, there she is, would be here. Hi, thank you so much for being here, Catalina.
Thank you for
I
having
already
me.
loved the name when I saw it. I'd like to introduce you to our other guests who are here, and